were a few other bills that passed in the House that would still have to pass the Senate before they have a chance to be signed into law by the president. Some of them were not controversial and passed with nearly unanimous support. One of those was the Personnel Oversight and Shift Tracking Act of 2025, which would strengthen the contracting and oversight of contracted security personnel. And the other was the Space Act of 2025, not referring to outer space, but referring to physical space, which would require federal tenants in different buildings to collaborate on space sharing arrangements. The Stop Illegal Entry Act of 2025 passed with a little bit of bipartisan support. There were 11 Democrats who voted for it. And what that bill does is it strengthens penalties for people who are deported and then enter illegally into the United States a second time. Finally, there was the SPEED Act, SPEED, which was part of the National Defense Authorization Act, the House version of that act. And it passed 231 to 196. The federal budget requires spending bills to be passed in two steps. First, there's an authorization bill, which directs how federal funds can and cannot be spent underneath the bill. And then there's an Appropriations Act, which actually authorizes the funding of those priorities. So this was an authorization act. It was stating the priorities. And it focused on modernizing U.S. military and defense operations. The bill focused on acquisition reform, cutting red tape, and removing barriers to quickly acquiring new military technologies, integration of commercial technologies from the private sector into military operations, accelerating adoption of AI and enhanced cybersecurity regulations, and modernizing the U.S. nuclear arsenal. 17 Democrats voted in support of the bill, but 192 of them opposed the bill. Democrats who opposed the bill had a number of reasons. One was the continuing crackdown on transgender people, which places further limits on the areas within military installations and academic settings that transgender students can access. Democrats also opposed the rollback of environmental regulations, including the requirement that more military vehicles be electric or use alternative energy. In addition to the Democrats that opposed the bill, there were 4 Republicans who opposed it, and that was primarily due to the inclusion of foreign aid funding inside the bill.